What's up, guys? I've got a Glock 19 video for you today. Gonna go over this Glock 19 and how it is different than the 19 that I have been running in the past. The Glock 19 that I have run in classes forever, and if you've seen me shooting a Glock 19 on the channel, that is a gun that was built specifically to demonstrate how bulky, how big could I get away with and still deep carry the gun. It wasn't optimal for deep carry. It was designed to be at the upper limit of size and bulkiness for what I could get away with. This is different. Uh, so the Glock that I was shooting before, I was running a TLR7 on that. I was running the largest possible optic that I could find. That was the Holosun 507 comp. Giant window that overhung the slide by a large margin and was maybe even close to double the height over the slide that this optic is. That was a bulky gun, but it was carryable. I say it's bulky, like it's bulky to the point where I don't want to carry that gun all day, every day. It pinches, it bites into the belly more than I like. It bites into the belly less than a lot of the giant competition size guns that you guys are carrying, but it was more than I wanted. This is a Glock 19 that is slimmed down as much as possible. This is the most reliable, most rugged, most easily serviced handgun that I have ever run. And I think that's true for most people. The Glock 19 is to millennials what the 1911 was to boomers. And, you know, we love our 19s and there's a good reason for it. I think I have close to, if not more than 100,000 rounds through Glock 19s. Probably easily more than 100,000 rounds through that, because I shot them for more than the decade, and during the decade of my highest round count shooting. So yeah, it's chosen because it is the smallest pistol that I can get, that is also the most tested and reliable pistol that I can get. How have I built this gun? Let's go through it. The biggest change, obviously, is the optic. This is the Holosun SCS. This optic did not get a lot of love when it came out, and even when I asked my close shooting friends about it, very mixed reviews on it. A handful of people say that they love them, they have no issues. The majority of people say that they don't like the brightness of the dot, that it's not bright enough when they want it, and that they don't like being able to control it and lock it out. Fair criticisms. But in my experience with this, in testing this optic in varying light conditions, every lighting condition that I can think of, including running the gun with a handheld light, I haven't noticed that the dot washes out. But keep in mind that I actually have used the old school fiber optic RMR. So I did not think that was a usable optic. That was awful in every possible way. I think that it is actually worse than iron sights. But this, I've heard people compare the SCS to that RMR. Not at all, guys. I wouldn't put this anywhere near any of the auto brightness dots. This seems to be better than a lot of cheaper optics that are adjustable brightness. I'm happy with that. No issues on the dot stuff. The biggest reasons that I've gone to this dot for this project and for just general use is you use a dot like this and you get rid of the stupid MOS plate. The worst thing about Glocks and optics is that Glock use the MOS plate system, and those plates fail left and right. You see a lot of people using aftermarket plates, and even the aftermarket plates, which are said to be so much better than the factory MOS plate, they fail all the freaking time. So not big on that. This gets rid of the plate entirely, and it just mounts the optic directly to the slide like my beloved micros do. So yeah, I like that. I also like that it sits that optic nice and low. I do care that the optic is low for keeping the profile of this gun small. I noticed that this optic on this gun does deep carry a lot better than, certainly better than the 507 comp that I was using, but it does carry a lot better, a lot less push into the belly, a lot less awkward pinchiness, and a lot less belt buckle tip or like waistline bulge than even a standard RMR. So better than the RMR, better than the 507C. Yeah, as far as carrying it and it not being the point of bulk that is uncomfortable or printing, that's a solid benefit. It sits super low, and I guess shooting wise, the only thing I've noticed that I kind of like about the sight picture there is that if you are running any gun with irons, this doesn't change your hold. It's really a small adjustment. You're going from there to there, but this just forces you to look through your irons essentially every time you shoot. And okay, I can see that there's maybe some benefit to that. Outside of the scope of this project, like things that I like about this dot, and one of the reasons I selected this is exactly the same size optic window, like exactly, you can look at the Holosun specs, exactly the same size optic window as the 507K. And I have a lot of time shooting the 507K on the 365 series guns. So I kind of wanted to see, is the bigness of the gun making this easier to shoot, or is the bigness of the optic that I used to have on this gun making it easier to shoot? I don't think it's one or the other, but I wanted to see how much gain I was getting from the giant optic size on the 507 comp, and also how much benefit was I getting from just a standard RMR sized window. From what I have seen on this, I don't get a crazy, like it's quantifiable when I look at a long string of draw to first shots. Obviously, if I am so botched in the grip that I miss the dot on this window, there's going to be less of that with the 507 comp. But otherwise, I don't notice a big change. And I know that a lot of that is coming from me running the 507K for as many rounds as I have. But hours and hours on that, and when I put that size window on a Glock 19, it kind of feels like home. It feels, I like it. Haven't talked about the batteryless features of the SCS. Jury's out on it, guys. We'll see. Moving on from the optic, briefly talk about the irons on this gun. These are just factory Glock sights that I've done the necessary modification to. And what I mean by that, Glock sights, guys, if you're going to keep your factory Glock sights, the first thing you should do is a Sharpie mod. Go get a Sharpie or any blackout pen and and just color in the stupid white horseshoe and the white dot up front. Promise you will shoot better. Those white marks are a visual distraction. They are not helping you acquire sights or anything. They're just a distraction. If I were to just run irons on any gun, I don't want anything distracting me from the razor's edge of the tip of the front sight. So I don't want tritium vials. I don't want the bright, Trijicon HD glow circle. I don't want any of that stuff, and I certainly don't want anything on the rear. Just black on black works. If you're worried about night shooting, you just need to test it, and as soon as you test it, you'll understand, guys. If you have enough light to see your target, even if you are standing in pitch black looking at a target that is illuminated enough to where you can tell it's a bad guy. When you drive the gun out, the light coming from the direction of where that target is going to highlight those sights, and you're going to get arguably a better sight picture in that style of lighting than you do in broad daylight. You're going to see perfectly outlined shadows of your blacked out sights on the silhouette or whatever it is that you're shooting at that is actually lit. So no need for dots on the sights, no need for colors or anything. They're factory Glock sights and they're blacked out, and that's it. Only other thing that I have done to this gun, there's only 2 parts that I will want to change in Glock internals. You can see one right here. You can see it wiggling around back here. Langdon Tactical makes these now. This is the striker control device or the gadget or the gizmo, but you're going to find it on Google under SCD or striker control device. This is a large added safety feature for Glocks. I wish that all striker fired guns would go to this. This is a huge benefit, guys. The majority of firearm accidents that happen when you're using a gun, carrying a gun, they're happening as you come out of the holster and as you go back into the holster. And as you're returning to holster, this SCD removes just about all funkiness that can go on with triggers getting snagged on stuff as you go to holster the gun. So here's how it works, guys. Got a clear gun here. The SCD wiggles back and forth. There is a surface, an arced surface that interferes with the back of the cruciform. So as you press the trigger, the SCD raises. It's not a visual thing. As you're going to holster a gun, a lot of people shooting hammered guns for years did this, and it's a good safety feature of hammered guns. You thumb the hammer so that you are holding the hammer, and on like a double action revolver, if the trigger were to get snagged, you can feel the hammer start to move as the trigger moves. This is just adding that feature to a striker fired gun. So there's no change in any of the built-in safeties here. You're actually adding an additional safety. This moves out to the rear, and any pressure that I put on the SCD is transferred directly to the trigger bar via the cruciform inside the Glock. So if I press this trigger a little bit, when I press the SCD, it will move the trigger back. That's nice. So if I get in the habit of pew, 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 and then I'm going to holster, I'm going to flag my thumb and claw that on the rear sight. And I have the pad of my thumb on the rear, the back plate of the gun. If there's any snag and that trigger is moving, I'm going to feel it. And I'm pinning the trigger away from anywhere near from where that sear is going to disengage and fire the gun. So yeah, big safety feature. If I add, if I'm pressing my thumb in here with 25 pounds of force, then now this Glock trigger is whatever the factory 5.5 pound trigger is, plus the 25 pounds that I'm adding here. The only other internal modification to this gun is still using a Glock factory part, and all I've done there is added the factory Glock minus connector. I haven't polished any of the internal surfaces. I'm not using any nickel boron or nitride, gold, whatever. I'm not using any of that. I don't like aftermarket trigger stuff for Glocks because you buy a Glock, you shoot a Glock because it is just super rugged and reliable. And all of those aftermarket kits that I have seen, those guns have more failures than Glocks that are left bone stock on the inside. So I've never seen a factory minus connector responsible for any malfunction, and I've never seen an SCD responsible for any malfunction. I shot a 19 for decades, but I also shot a 19 for the decade that I shot the most round counts year after year. So yeah, I don't change out any of the internals, and that is coming from a place of experience where I have had 19s where I've changed just about everything, and some of them ran better than others, but none of them ran as reliably as just a factory Glock internal system. So there it is, guys. Really streamlined, really simple. I've got a very low mounted SCS holosun on here. Gets me away from that stupid MOS plate system. I've got factory Glock sights that are blacked out. I've got my SCD, and I've got my minus connector purchased from Glock. It's a Glock part. Nothing else done to it. Not using any of the back straps. I don't. If you have a larger hand and you want the back straps, it's fine. I just don't like the beaver tail on there because it makes it harder to thumb the back plate and to claw the rear sight for drawing and holstering. No light on there, definitely, because the light's going to make the holster huge all the way through there, and it's going to add a lot of holsters, light bearing holsters or light compatible holsters. They are just a lot more pinchy, and there's few of them that are adaptable to deep carry. I'm not a fan. Just for the bulk alone, yeah, don't need it. But yeah, there it is, guys. That is a Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS set up the way that I think is optimal for everyday, all day carry.